Miami-Dade lieutenant abuses his own relative. In 2018, a Miami-Dade police lieutenant named Braulio Gonzalez was arrested on some seriously grisly charges. They included 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation of a child and a single count of kidnapping.
Lieutenant is on the wrong side of the law, accused of a despicable crime.
This veteran officer allegedly fondled a little girl, and that child is no stranger to him.
What makes this story even more gut-wrenching is that Gonzalez allegedly molested his victim, a girl who was related to him, over the course of 2 years. The victim bravely spoke up about the abuse to her psychologist on September 5, 2018, when she disclosed that Gonzalez had touched her inappropriately from 2011 to 2013. The victim also told an interviewer from the Florida Department of Children and Families that the first time Gonzalez molested her, he had a gun pointed at her head and threatened to harm her loved ones if she tried to rat him out to anyone. This horrific threat was probably the reason why it took her so long to speak up. According to arrest warrants and court documents, Gonzalez had led the victim to his bedroom and instructed her to lie down on his bed. He then put on a movie and lay down next to her, where he began rubbing her stomach and eventually touched her inappropriately. He also forced the minor to touch his private parts. But the story didn't end there.
Using a child.
So I am ordering you to stay away from the victim, okay? I'm contact with the victim.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
9 months after the incident of the initial charges, another minor female came forward with accusations against Gonzalez. According to court documents, the second victim accused Gonzalez of entering a bathroom and watching her shower when she was between the ages of 9 and 11. Police records also revealed that Gonzalez allegedly assaulted other women before the charges that led to his conviction this week. 3 of his ex-girlfriends claimed to have suffered severe injuries after Gonzalez reportedly attacked them, with one suffering a broken nose and another a broken arm. Shockingly, 2 of the women claimed that Gonzalez had pointed a firearm at them as well. Behind the scenes, he was very violent. Prosecutor Natalie Snyder said he's a very dangerous person. Despite the serious allegations against him, Gonzalez's lawyer was able to work out a deal that allowed him to await trial while under house arrest. Miami-Dade police cleared Gonzalez of any wrongdoing and allowed him to keep his job. To everyone's surprise, Gonzalez also continued to receive his taxpayer-funded salary even after his arrest, as his department opted to put him on paid leave. Finally, after a long legal battle, Gonzalez was sentenced to life in prison in 2022 by Judge Miguel de la O. However, even at the hearing, he showed no remorse whatsoever. He refused to apologize to his victims and didn't even address the court. There'll be no closure here. They'll go to prison and they'll continue to live with it. I hope they're able to overcome it, de la O said. While this deviant officer abused one of his own, other individuals look for different avenues for their horrific desires. In our next story, an officer grooms his victim via a video game. Number 2, Okaloosa County officer grooms child and gets caught. A sheriff's deputy from the Florida Panhandle has been arrested and charged in Polk County for preying on a 9-year-old Winter Haven girl through a gaming app. Okaloosa County Deputy Kansas Timothy Sadler Jr. was arrested after investigators say he exchanged nude pictures with the young girl.
Up with online, a child talked this little 9-year-old girl into taking pictures of herself. This is a bad man.
It all started when the girl's mother found inappropriate material on her daughter's cell phone and reported it to the police. The Polk County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation, which revealed that Sadler had messaged the victim through an online interactive mobile game called The Wolf. In an attempt to manipulate the young girl into sending nude photos of herself and to meet up for a sexual encounter, Sadler created alternative personalities for himself. The first one was an 11-year-old girl named Jade, who played and communicated in the game with the victim, who also portrayed herself as an 11-year-old. The second persona was of a 31-year-old adult male named Jason, who was a friend of Jade's dad. Sadler attempted to groom the little girl using Jade's persona by telling her about her sexual relations with Jason. The communication lasted from the morning of June 8th through the afternoon of June 9th. During that time, Sadler sent the young girl 3 pornographic images and several sexually explicit messages. Despite this short time frame, Sadler was still successful in obtaining a few nude pictures of the 9-year-old victim. Fortunately, the girl's older sister realized that something was terribly wrong and told their mother. As the mother's checking through her kid's phone, Sadler called the girl, acting as Jason, on her phone. The mom answered the call, and that was it for Sadler's little game. The mother reported the whole incident to the Polk County Police Department. Detectives traced the communication to a computer IP address at Sadler's home in Okaloosa County and alerted the authorities. He was quickly placed under arrest by the local Okaloosa police. Sadler was immediately fired from his position in the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department upon his arrest. "I'm always disheartened when someone sworn to serve and protect commits any crime, much less crimes of this nature," said Sheriff Larry Ashley of the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. While Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd had some advice for the parents. If you're going to allow your 9-year-old to have a phone that connects to the internet, that connects to gaming apps, you've got to know what they're doing. Officials said Sadler joined the department in July of the year prior to the incident after retiring from the U.S. Army. He'd only been on the force for a few months and was still on new hire probationary status. He was charged with multiple counts separately by both the Polk County Police and the Okaloosa County Departments. At the trial, Circuit Judge Michael Flowers sentenced Sadler on 5 counts of transmitting material harmful to minors and 1 count each of using an electronic device to solicit sexual conduct with a minor while misrepresenting his age, and unlawful use of a communications device in the commission of a felony. As part of his punishment, Sadler will also be made to wear a GPS monitor for 15 years while serving sex offender probation, and he will carry a sexual offender designation for the rest of his life. Thankfully, things ended up okay, and no physical harm came to the victim. In our next story, we've got a pedo officer who fell prey to a sting operation. Number 3. Washington State officer falls for a trap. In February 2021, a shocking story emerged from the state of Washington. A former member of the Washington State Patrol, Trevor Smith, had been arrested after exchanging texts with a woman who he believed was offering to allow him to have sex with her 2 young daughters, aged 6 and 11. Yes, you heard that right. But in reality, it was all a big setup. The woman was an undercover female police officer, and she had no children.
Washington State Patrol trooper was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the attempted sexual abuse of 2 kids.
The officer fell for the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. So the story goes something like this. A 30-year-old Trevor Smith had responded to an ad placed by an undercover officer as part of a sting operation set up by the Seattle Police Department's Internet Crimes Against Children unit. The operation's goal was to catch people involved in the sexual exploitation and abuse of minors. Smith fell for this trap and believed he was trading graphic messages with the mother of 2 young girls. He went so far as to offer the woman sexual access to abuse his own 9-month-old son. After days of messaging back and forth with the undercover officer, Smith arranged to meet the woman at a Kirkland restaurant to discuss the details of his planned sexual abuse of her 2 fictitious young daughters. He then went to a nearby convenience store to buy some contraceptives. Smith then met the woman at the hotel, where he expected to find 2 girls in her room. However, he was greeted by police officers who promptly arrested him. According to the police, Smith admitted that he had sexual interest in children for quite some time, but had never acted on it before, until this incident at least. Once the case came to light, Smith was removed from his duties as a state trooper. As parents and Washingtonians ourselves, we are shocked and deeply disappointed by these serious and significant allegations, said Sergeant Darren Wright, a public information officer for Washington State Patrol. To ensure a fair and transparent process, WSP cannot and will not be involved in the investigation. He had worked for the State Patrol as a commercial vehicle enforcement officer assigned to the school bus inspection program. A prosecutor's spokesperson confirmed that no children were present when he conducted safety inspections on the buses. Unsurprisingly, things were not going well for Smith back at home either. Court records show that Smith filed for divorce from his wife of nearly 4 years in November of that year. Later, his wife obtained a temporary domestic violence protection order, barring Smith from coming within 100 yards of her or her son. Smith was originally charged in King County Superior Court with 2 counts of attempted first-degree rape of a child. However, the case was later transferred to federal court in May 2021, and Smith was released on bond until January 2023. Smith pleaded guilty in January to attempted enticement of a minor. Under federal sentencing guidelines, he would be facing up to 14 to 17 and a half years in prison. However, both parties recommended a sentence of 10 years, citing Smith's acceptance of responsibility. He was sentenced in the U.S. District Court in Seattle. U.S. District Judge John H. Chun imposed 15 years of supervised release to follow the 10-year prison term, and Smith will be required to register as a sex offender after his release from prison, the Department of Justice said. If you want to support the channel and want to keep exposing such corrupt cops, please subscribe. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.